The Senate on Wednesday rejected a deal to, what would they essentially say, end the war, thwart the war, if you will, in Iran.
That's right. So this was a resolution which would have said that the president can take no further action in Iran without an authorization from Congress. There's a similar vote happening in the House today. Last night's was in the Senate, which would say that the president directly would have to remove the United States Armed Forces from unauthorized hostilities in the Islamic Republic of Iran. The Senate version that went forward last night failed 47-53. So a no here is on the side of the president. And the 53 no's included all of the Republicans except for one, plus John Fetterman. And then those that voted to advance this, which would have said that basically the war in Iran has to stop unless Congress approves it, was all of the Democrats, minus Fetterman, but adding Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky. And we'll get into this and what it means, but some of the sound coming out from the Democrats is shocking. At a time when our armed forces are engaged in this, the way that they are describing the administration seems so very reckless and unserious. If this is as serious as they say it is, the way that they are talking about the administration, I feel like puts our armed forces in more harm's way than if they were just to say, we don't believe this is the right action. We don't think this is the way we should go. But I've got a soundbite from Mark Kelly that I'll play you in the next segment, so stay tuned. That will shock you that members of the Senate that are veterans would talk this way.
Yeah, I want to even read to you. This is one from Chuck Schumer. He said, today, every senator, every single one will pick a side. Do you stand with the American people who are exhausted of forever wars in the Middle East, or stand with Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth as they bumble us headfirst into another war? So again, that is coming from Chuck Schumer. And it does feel pretty strange after we know what was a bumbled and fumbled exit from Afghanistan that was led by their own president and their own party.
Once again, what we have seen is precision, accuracy, effectiveness from the administration, from the military. And you've got to hand it to our men and women in the armed forces of the United States and the commanders and the Secretary of War. They are executing this action in Iran with efficiency, precision, and skill and strength that the United States has not shown in a very long time. So you can say you don't agree with it or you think that the president doesn't have the right to, even though I think history bears this out that he does. But to say that Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth are bumbling us head first is a slap in the face to our military that is engaged in this conflict right now. A similar measure is expected to be put forward in the House today. That is co-sponsored by Ro Khanna of California, as well as Thomas Massie of Kentucky. That is the continuing resolution 38, and this is directed at the president pursuant action Section 5C of the War Powers Resolution to remove the United States Armed Forces from unauthorized hostilities in the Islamic Republic of Iran. Doing effectively the same thing. It is expected to fail there as well. But what you're seeing now is this partisan split on this action that is reaching a new level. It used to be that when the United States engaged in military conflict, there may have been differences in policy, in outcome, and even loud vocal voices saying the president, what they're doing is wrong. But the diminishing language, I think, is what is new here. The way that you are hearing Democrats talk about the administration, and I think it is damaging, one, to the reputation of the United States, to those men and women in uniform that are fighting currently, because you have statements like this. This is from Senator Mark Kelly, a Democrat from Arizona. You may know him from his videos telling people to not obey what they say is illegal orders. That was the whole big issue with him earlier in this administration. But let's go ahead and hear what he had to say on with Jen Psaki, so former alumni of the Obama White House. And it's shocking when you hear it, so I need you to listen. This is Bite 7.
You could pick a random group of people off the street tonight here in Washington, D.C., just a random group, and they could probably do a better job than our government is doing right now with this. They don't have a goal, there's no strategic plan, there's no timeline, and what this is likely to lead to is, again, a long war with a lot of dead Americans and no rationale for how this is helping the American people.
Logan, when you hear that from a veteran himself, an astronaut, a sitting U.S. senator, that he is belittling the planning of the military as well, because it's not as if Donald Trump himself is sitting there drawing up war plans. That's not how it works. He knows that. And not that Pete Hegseth is the only other person involved in these decision-making processes. When you hear him say that you could pick a random group of people off the street of D.C. here tonight and they would do a better job than the U.S. is doing. Right. One, the United States, and Pete Hegseth, the president, Marco Rubio, have been very transparent. Then they also have been showing the outcome, effective outcomes. The loss from one strike, one missile that got through is tragic. But that is war, as well as it is not this mass chaos where all of our bases are burning in the Middle East and our ships are being sunk, like people like Mark Kelly warned us would happen if this went forward.
When you hear Mark Kelly, I mean, you hear the stank of politics on it. I mean, really is what it is. I mean, it's just politics 101. You don't hear someone who's actually coming out from, by the way, respect his service, he probably would have a lot to share. But instead, politics has infiltrated him. Maybe he's another one that thinks that 2028 could be a good political run for him, because you see that on him. You see the tone that's coming out of him. It is a tone of politics. It's not a tone of war. It is not a tone of conversation that actually could lead to betterment of our military. Now, time will tell whether this war or this military conflict was worth it. When any human life is lost, of course, you're going to weigh what the worth was of it. And what I'm hoping is that President Trump and Pete Hegseth, who I've very much thought that Pete Hegseth has done a good job over the last few weeks, I hope that what we're going to see is they do have this plan and they do have this strategy. And all signs would point to that they do. I think that would be different. If we were months into this, and I think even John Fetterman kind of mentioned that, like we're 36 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours into this war, really, into this conflict, that it would be a little different if we're talking about a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, we're still in it. Now, look, it is apparently, America has that issue. We know that it is a problem that we've had many times before. So it's not an unwarranted question. But when you come at it from a place that feels so political and not military, not from his expertise, I would love to hear from a non-political Mark Kelly at this moment. I would love to hear from non-political from all sides of the military world. But sadly, when you go on one of these programs, that's not what they want, and that's certainly not what he wanted to express. He wanted to express a political position, not a strategic military position.
That's right. And once again, I would respect their position if it came across as a statesman. If it was a statesman Democrat that said, I ideologically disagree with this. I do not think the president should be leading us down this road. I am concerned about the cost on American lives. I can respect that position. What I cannot respect is them acting not like statesmen, saying that they are bumbling their way through this. If you talk to any global war on terror veteran right now, maybe not any, but if you talk to, I would say a vast majority, about would they rather have the early days of Iraq and Afghanistan executed how it was with the leadership that was then there, even through the Obama years, or would you rather have it executed like it is happening now? I think you would get an overwhelming response of the way that the president and the leadership in the military and the Secretary of War and the National Security Advisor, Marco Rubio, are executing this action against Iran is how the military should operate. Right. This is efficient. This is a plan. This isn't them trying to use academics and all this other theory involved. This is getting back to the basics of lethality in the military, and it's working. The fact that we are even using more conventional methods and we're not fighting an insurgency like we were fighting in Afghanistan and Iraq, it makes it such a different war. And having our leaders use words and phrases like they're bumbling through this or anybody on the street in D.C. could do a better job is disrespectful to our men and women in military. Have a high level policy discussion about this.
That's what I'm saying. It feels just like a political stump speech. It doesn't feel like there's actually any weight there. I want to take this call real quick. Let's go to Bill in Wyoming. Bill, go ahead.
I got to say, speaking as a vet, as far as I'm concerned, if the Democrats got past their resolution, this would have exactly extended what's been going on in Iran instead of ended it quickly. Period.
Well, what they were trying to do is basically say it's got to end now. And so then they would have to come back, and then maybe Congress could have gotten forward and gotten a longer resolution out. But Bill, also, I think that's dangerous to our men and women in uniform too. If they today said, you can't do another thing, you can't do any more of this, it's over, even though we have all the assets there that then could be sitting ducks. Obviously, I think that they can engage defensively, but I think that puts our men and women in uniform in more harm's way. If they no roadmap, no off-ramp, as they like to talk about, what's the off-ramp in Iran? If your off-ramp is a vote in the House and Senate that says you stop right now, don't shoot another missile against Iran until we tell you can shoot another missile, I think that puts America's troops in more of a harm's way. So it's ridiculous when you hear Senator Kelly talking like this and not going and having a real discussion and debate with the administration, but going on MS Now with Jen Psaki and trying to say that any one of the people in D.C. who probably believe, because all of the elites that are around that studio probably do believe they could do a better job because that's the swamp for you, but it is just ridiculous.